Well, hello. I'm joined today by Roy. To tell you the truth, I'd hoped that we would have been talking to you from the bridge, but unfortunately it's a wet and windy day, and so we decided it was the kind of day that it was far better to be sitting in front of the fire. So here we are. Welcome, Roy.
Hello.
I'm one of these newcomers to LUSS, but I think you've been here quite a long time.
On and off for about 40 odd years, yes.
40 odd years? How did you come here first of all?
Well, I was brought up in Inverness and my parents moved back south. I went to college for about a year in Oxford and didn't like it very much and wanted to come back to Scotland, so that's what I did. In a day I sort of hitched lifts and came back to Scotland, and I ended up at David Christie's farm, Hill of Cumstraden, and that's where I started out my time in LUSS.
So what did you do on the farm?
Anything and everything.
But over the years, you've developed a tremendous interest in horses.
I always have had an interest in horses, right from when I was very, very young. Certainly my name might belie that a little bit, Roy Rogers. But my parents didn't know anything about Roy Rogers, that was just a pure accident. But apparently I used to draw horses right from the word go, and I can remember, I mean, I used to enter lots of competitions drawing them. But I was always frightened of horses, and yet when I was brought up in Inverness, the first job I ever had was on a milk cart drawn by a horse. And that was incredible for me. I mean, it's something that I just thought never would happen. I was still frightened of them, and that was sort of the last dealings I had for quite some time until we moved on to Inchtavannach, and my wife had always wanted a horse, and I'd always promised her a horse if we ever had the place and the money to do so, we'd buy a horse. So we got her a horse when we moved there, and I really didn't take, I would look after him, but I didn't take a lot to do with him. She would ride him. And then it was a good 10, 12 years after that, some friends, well, people had become friends. He had a really bad accident with a horse that he was breaking and schooling, and we went across to help them out, and probably for about 3 months or so, because he really was in hospital for quite some time, and his wife wasn't able to carry out all the sort of duties that she was supposed to. And at the end of that, they asked if, they said they were going to teach me to ride, and I said no, I wasn't interested in riding. I really wasn't interested in riding, and they insisted. And so, just to calm the situation and keep a bit of peace, I said yes, all right. Got on the horse, and within, it really literally was 2 to 3 minutes, I was absolutely hooked. And this was Western riding, so Roy Rogers and Western riding were hooked up again. And within 6 weeks I had my first horse, and I have 5.
And you keep them on Inchtavannach?
Yes, yes.
Now, for the benefit of those who don't know, tell us a wee bit about Inchtavannach.
Well, Inchtavannach is one of the islands, or one of the larger islands on Loch Lomond. We're not very far off the mainland, as can often be seen during the summer. You can see us swimming horses backwards and forwards. But yes, it's about 200 acres, just lies about a quarter of a mile or so off the mainland. Obviously we have our own boats and a barge to take horses sometimes across or whatever, but we also swim horses across. We've taken horses for all sorts of reasons. One with a snake bite once that couldn't walk, and they thought one of the local vets thought we wouldn't really be able to do very much for it, and it went back to work within a fortnight. Right. We do all sorts, anything, so long as it's got something to do with horses. I really enjoy it. We do a lot of Western riding as well, which we sort of practice at home. We keep our horses fit at home as well, as the island's somewhat hilly, plenty of paths round about it, so yes, we just work with our horses all the time.
And when you're swimming horses back and forwards, that's not just to get to the island, there's other reasons for that. No,
yes, other reasons. We have in the past taken horses for all sorts of reasons. As I say, one had a snake bite once. We've taken horses to just put muscle on them by swimming. This was a show horse that was going to the Highland Show, and they just wanted to be that little bit better, and it actually won its class, believe it or not, and we were really, really pleased. But yes, we've had horses for cardiovascular reasons, everything really, just all sorts of peculiar things. And swimming is just tremendous. They enjoy it, but it's also very, very good for them. When we ride on the mainland, we usually always swim our horses home. If we go up LUSS Glen, for instance, that's a roundabout trip of about 12 miles. And if we were to take the horses across on the barge and then let them go, they'll just wander off. But if we swim them home, they're as fresh as daisies and go off kicking their heels and have enjoyed the day immensely. I think horses like to work anyway, as long as it's interesting.
So would you describe yourself as a horse whisperer?
No.
No. Why not?
No, not really. I know people, it's a big sort of in thing these days, horse whisperer, but there are one or two horse whisperers who I would term horse whisperers around, and seem to be able to get messages from horses, but I can't do that. But you've heard of people watchers. Well, I'm a horse watcher, and it's all body language, and that's how I work with horses. It's body language and being able to understand what they're saying to you because of that. I watch them in the fields for hours, and you learn a tremendous amount of things from them. But yes, it's feel, mostly, feel. But when riding horses, we show some of our quarter horses. We go to shows all over Britain, and the horses, the one I ride in particular, she's very, very sensitive, and that's the kind of horse I like to ride. But if I want to turn a corner, I just turn my head, if I have to. But usually all I have to do is think about it, and they'll do it. And that's the way we try to go. We quite often do demonstrations, and usually at the end of a demonstration, what I'll do is, we do different disciplines in a demonstration, but usually at the end, I'll take the Mouse, she's called, the one I normally ride. I'll take her bridle and reins off and ride her without, and do all the things that I'd done previously without a bridle or a bit in her mouth or anything.
Oh, goodness.
And people seem to think that's quite good.
Oh, fantastic. Tell us a wee bit about the island. How big is it?
Inchtavannach, it means Island of Monks, and the House of the Monk. It's 200 acres. It's very heavily wooded, mostly oak, which was planted there about 100 years or so ago. Because of that, it's a SSSI site, which some people will understand, Site of Scientific Special Interest. The only thing about that is it's meant to represent the woodlands of Loch Lomond as they were several hundred years ago, but all these actually came as saplings from Holland.
Right.
So it's but nevertheless, it's still very much as Loch Lomond would have looked like several hundred years ago. We do have fields. We've about 25 acres in fields, so we sort of run it as a small holding. We have sheep. We have had cattle in the past. And now, really, horses are our thing.
700 years ago, but the story of Inchtavannach goes much further back than that.
Oh yes, very much so. People have lived there for as long as people have been around this district. We've had archaeologists across. We have had lots of the sites catalogued. Fiona Baker, who some people might know about, did an exercise on the loch on the islands a number of years ago. I think she catalogued about 90 sites on Inchtavannach and hadn't finished, and she'd been there for over a week. It's just incredible, but we're not quite sure just how far it goes back, but there are sites that were definitely either Bronze Age or Iron Age. So yes, it takes on a tremendous amount of different peoples, and I'm trying to think of some of the people that have been there.
Well,
Vikings.
tell us about the association with St Keswick.
St Keswick, yes. Well, Keswick, who brought really Christianity to Scotland, settled on Inchtavannach. Whether it was a sort of a retreat for him, but obviously he's associated with LUSS. But he built a monastery on Inchtavannach in the 6th century. And although we really haven't found a tremendous amount, it has